Momentum is building. Now let's see what the charts actually confirm. This is Bitcoin on Point, where I give you the only news that matters and the cleanest technical analysis to trade the best asset in the world, Bitcoin. Now, right now, Bitcoin is showing a bullish momentum, but what matters now is how price reacts at key levels. So structure is still intact, and what we're actually waiting for is the next reaction. This will tell us whether continuation or patience is still needed. Now, before we go deeper into the charts, let's zoom out to the macro news because the backdrop continues to strengthen beneath the surface. Crypto ETFs just closed a record-breaking year at $1.48 trillion, and BlackRock's IBIT is coming in as the 6th largest ETF globally. This isn't niche demand anymore, guys. This is Bitcoin being absorbed into long-term portfolios, into institutional allocation models, and traditional capital structures. Institutions aren't trading Bitcoin. They are integrating it. Now let's take a look at market structure because legislation is back. Senator Cynthia Lummis calls for Congress to pass crypto market structure legislation. So what clear structure actually provides is less regulatory risk, it unlocks institutional capital, and allows markets to actually scale with confidence. Markets don't wait for perfect rules, but they do reprice when clarity improves, and this is exactly what we are seeing. Now, the US government is a major Bitcoin holder. Why is this important? Well, they now hold over $30 billion in crypto, with 97% of it in Bitcoin. Now, this tells us something important because Bitcoin is being treated differently, and it's being treated as a digital asset, not a speculative one. So governments may debate regulation, but balance sheets reveal the actual conviction. So based on the macro news, when you connect the dots, ETFs are setting records, regulation is moving forward with clarity, and governments are holding very large amounts of Bitcoin. This doesn't align with panic or distribution. It aligns with long-term positioning while short-term price continues to resolve structure and liquidity. Now let's bring this context back to the charts, and we're going to start with Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. Bitcoin's long-term trend line since 2023 remains intact, and this month's candle is showing clear bullish momentum. In fact, if Bitcoin closes above $90,000 in January, this could be a large bullish engulfing candle. So there's no breakdown. There's no structural failure here, and as long as this trend line is respected and defended, the higher time frame bias stays constructive. Now let's work our way down to the lower time frames. Looking at Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, we're seeing a very similar pattern unfold. Historically, every time price dumped into this zone after losing a previous level of support, and this is since sort of 2024, Bitcoin spends its time building a base structure. So on all of these prior dumps below key levels of support, Bitcoin spends a good few weeks building a double bottom or creating large liquidity wicks where the bulls step back in before running to a new all-time high. Now we've seen a 19% dump this time around, and price is once again sitting in that lower zone where demand has consistently stepped in. This is why it's a bullish setup, not a breakout chase. And when also you can see these liquidity longs, once they run up into this supply, this is where we see a dump. But this is where in the charts, it coincides with a pump. So what you'll tend to see is the longs coming down and Bitcoin's price action respectively pushing to a new all-time high. There is a strong correlation here, and this is definitely a signal not to ignore. And right this second on the daily chart, Bitcoin is now approaching this daily supply zone at $92,000 to $93,000. So there are two set paths in this scenario. If the strength maintains and the bulls step in, we could break through this supply zone, turn it into support, and look for continuation, which would confirm a massive double bottom breakout. So if I just remove this supply box quickly, what you'll actually see is that Bitcoin has this major level of resistance, okay? And it also has this major level of support. So you could say that at this moment in time, we're still caught between this massive range. But if the bulls do step into gear here and we either get that push through supply and turn it into support, this is where real strength will unfold. But failing that, if we do run up to sort of 93 to 94k, there is still support waiting below in a massive order block, which could reset before a massive continuation and then approaching the supply zone and initially breaking out. This is a massive decision area as we approach into this supply. I don't want to predict a direction. What I want to see is a reaction in this territory. So acceptance above supply means continuation. However, rejection equals patience and reassessment. The levels matter more than the guess. Right? Now let's zoom into Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, even more intricate, where we have the 100 EMA that has been acting as a key level of support. And this is this black line here for Bitcoin. Now we actually reclaim this on the 1st of January, and we are seeing a push back above the lower time frame supply of $90,000. This is something in the previous videos we was watching. It was a strong supply zone on the lower time frames, but Bitcoin has now seen a push above this level. So this confirms that buyers were active and exactly where they need to be. This is where we want to see that continuation. On the 2-hour time frame, that key level, zooming in even more, is evidently seen as a major breakout. Price broke resistance and has now turned it into support. So with this being said, it's potentially likely that what we see is some further chop here, reclaim this level, sorry, not reclaim it, actually turn this level into support and look for the continuation higher. And this is where discipline actually matters. Instead of chasing the price, the higher probability approach is to wait for one, a retracement into support before that continuation, then reassess the structure and the momentum and let the level prove itself. So just a quick catch up through Bitcoin, right? The weekly is showing a continuous bullish setup that in the past has led to new all-time highs. The monthly is respecting a key trend line that's been intact since 2023. The daily is caught between a level of resistance, approaching its supply zone into crunch time, waiting for a decision. The lower time frames are pushing through their supply blocks at $90,000, and we simply wait for a decision, a retest. Let's not guess this, and let the structure unfold before anything else. Now let's shift to Ethereum. So looking at ETH on the daily time frame, today we're actually seeing a breakout of a major level of resistance that we've been rejected from on ETH ever since late November. So we was holding a key level of support within this sort of triangle formation, waiting for a decision. And as of today, it looks like we are attempting a breakout, which could potentially start a new trend. So the question isn't excitement overall, it's actually waiting for that confirmation. If price sustains above this level, we may be seeing the start of a new bullish reversal. All eyes on ETH on the daily time frame. Now zooming into the 4-hour time frame, we do have a slightly different picture. And this is something very important because after the first reaction with the supply zone, price hasn't actually sold off. We're actually sustaining the level at $3,100. And instead of actually breaking down, we're witnessing a push higher. We're witnessing continuation, right? So this behavior signals buyer intent is stronger and increases the probability that this supply zone could initially flip into support. So what we want to see here for ETH on the lower time frames to coincide with the breakout on the daily is to actually turn the previous supply of 3.1k into a support territory, hold it as support, and then look for the continuation where ETH may push up to its next supply zone, which sits at 3.3k. So what we need to take away is this is still constructive and we typically have to wait for the confirmation. So when we actually stack all of this together, guys, on the weekly time frame, Bitcoin is repeating a bullish setup. On the monthly, it is respecting a macro trend line since 2023. On the lower time frames, we are pushing through imminent supply, which indicates that buy-side liquidity has been taken. On the 2-hour time frame, support is potentially going to be turned into resistance before continuation here. 90k is the key target. ETH on the daily is signaling a potential trend shift. It would be healthy if I had ETH up. we're going to confirm this with a massive breakout. We need to wait for confirmation. And on the 4 hours time frame for ETH, it's evident that the buyers are actually stepping in here and price is sustaining above key levels. This doesn't show a market breakdown. It's a market improving whilst respecting key structural levels. So this phase isn't about rushing. This phase is about watching the structure. Momentum is here, and it's about letting us know whether support is going to confirm here, whether supply actually resolves on the lower time frame and we continue to hold this previous level of resistance as support, and we simply just wait for reactions to guide those decisions. The market doesn't reward impatience, it rewards discipline. Now, if you do want to support the channel, the links below are there for you. You can trade on the platform we use, get fee discounts and bonuses. It's completely optional, but it really helps the channel grow. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next update.